25 in the bag, Aaron Macy.
I'm getting sad.
I know, man. 2 more rounds. It's really heating up, isn't it?
And then, you know, it starts to drop off each week. You got less games, and then you're waiting for those games. And
yeah, well,
it's exciting.
It's exciting. It's exciting. It's exciting for everyone. For those who are going to the semis and those who are going to Bali, as we always say. But
the Bali mentality is setting in. We can probably touch on that later.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. I think one thing as I've got a little bit older is my highlight of my week is coaching the kids' footy. And my little Bondi United side played local rivals, Paddo Colts. And we beat them by, I think, 1 try at the start of the year. And the coach sent through a message saying we're going to treat it like our GF. And I said, "Oh, beautiful."
How old are these kids?
Under 9s.
Under 9s, yeah.
I said we'll be ready for war, and the boys went out and delivered 48-4.
Let's go.
They were kids' footy, unreal.
Yeah. Nice work, bud. Nice work.
What about yours? You had a little luncheon on Friday?
Yeah, I had a luncheon, mate. So the Mark Hughes Foundation at South Juniors, it's called the 400 Club, which they do at Maroubra Beach. It's a big community down there where they bring rowers down. It's been going for about 3 years now, and I think the Newcastle boys do it as well. So obviously Mark Hughes came down. Chief Harrigan was there. I got a story about Chief in a second. Danny Badiris, Joey, you know, there was a lot of ex-footballers there. It was actually a really good afternoon. And
everyone behaved?
Pretty well behaved, actually. It was, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I went to the toilet and I'm standing at the urinal and I love, and then the chief pulls up next to me and I love the chief.
Yeah.
And, that's when you, proper starstruck. He brings back my whole 90s.
Your childhood.
You know, my whole childhood of Origin, 97 grand final, the battles with Spud Carroll. It was the chief, and he looked over and he said, "Oh, hey, Reni, how you going?" And I was just stoked that he knew my name. And he's pissing like he's putting a fire out, and I got stage fright and awkwardly walked off. I went, "Good to meet you, Chief." Just walked off. I was like, fuck. Anyway, I went out to him and I said, "Chief, look, mate, you were my absolute idol in the 90s. And, mate, he was so happy. He could not believe that someone was still, sort of giving him a rap or something. Gave him a big hug and said, thanks for the memories. And it was good to meet him. And, yeah, so it was a great afternoon. And we raised, they raised about 50,000.
How good's that?
Yeah.
But just on what you said, I think we spoke about last week. I spoke about London getting the boots off Spence, and that's something he will remember for forever. Look at you. You're someone who even played NRL, and you still look at him as an idol and someone you looked up to, and it gives you that nostalgia, you know?
Yeah, it gave me stage fright. I couldn't even do a piss. But no, it was that awkward moment, mate. Let's get into it, Mace. Who was your freak of the week this week?
I'm going to go with a little fella. Lockie Galvin.
Little fella that's about 6'2".
Mate, he's little in the fact that he's about our height. Mate, you know what? That team obviously copped a lot of bad raps. He went through a stage where he was copping it in the media about potentially wanting to leave. He's committed to the club. Even in the games where they're getting beat, he's one of the best players on the field every week. I think he had 23 runs for a half, 204 run meters.
This is the thing. I was watching that game. That was the Thursday night game, right? And even when they got Manly just couldn't stop the bleeding at one point, they just got on this roll. And then they got an 8 or maybe a 10-point lead, the Tigers. And Lockie Galvin was still trying to, just rip their hearts completely out. As you get older and you develop into a more of a mature footballer, a mature half, you can probably slow the game down a little bit, play it more at your tempo. He was just taking on short sides, long sides, throwing bullet passes. Look at this kid. Mate, he's unbelievable. For a 19-year-old. So competitive, so good, such a massive future. And everyone speaks about, I like the Fainu brothers as well, but everyone speaks about it. Let's just hope that these young Tigers players stick together and kind of build a career.
Build that bond as well.
Just build a career together because they've been through, hell and back. But he's going to be a very, very sought-after kid. And obviously this year everyone was after him. So Yeah, I like your freak of the week, mate.
What's your numero uno freak of the week?
So my numero uno freak of the week is I've got two. I've got Blake Brayley and I've got Briton Nikora. I just really loved how Blake got out of dummy half and really opened up the field for his middle forwards and just played on the front foot and everyone was on board. Briton Nikora, I want to say it correctly. I want to pronounce his name right. He's hole running. He was coming back against the grain. He looks to offload or pick up runners on the other side of the ruck. His kick chase, his pressure, his foot speed. You know, he was outstanding. So they're my two numero uno freak of the weeks.
I want to ask a question. You being a forward, what sort of difference is it when you've got a hooker that gets you on the front foot? Like, can you explain it?
Look, there was two teams I really wanted to observe this weekend and watch really closely, and it was the Sharks and it was the Roosters, because I don't think anyone's really given the Sharks the respect they deserve, including myself. And I'm thinking, all right, this team's sitting in third. They're the third best attacking team. They're the third best defensive side, so they deserve to be third. But no one's talking about them like the way we talk about the Dogs, the way we talk about Penrith, the way we talk about Melbourne. So I really just wanted to have a good look at and just sort of analyse the way they play.
So where do they sit?
So in a local derby, right? Yeah. Big game. So George are meant to everyone picked Dragons. I think I may have even picked Dragons down in Wollongong. The two people that got him off the front foot was Toby Rudolph and Kafusi.
Yeah.
Not only that, they created this short passing game between front rowers, and I love that.
Yeah.
You know, like most front rowers don't have a passing game, or defensive sides don't expect them to pass. That gave the opportunity for Blake Brayley to get out of nine and create. Give him space, and I think they rolled him about 65 metres off the first set.
Yeah.
And then it just kept going and going and going all game. So I think the front rowers were brilliant. Their bench, obviously, Hunt coming on. Who else is in their side? Hamlin, Ueli.
Yeah.
Like he comes onto the field. Briton Nikora, who we've just been talking about, their edge back rowers. You know what? I think they're not a team full of stars. Like, respectfully, they're not like a Melbourne where you can say, Pappenhausen, Hughes, Munster.
Yeah.
You know, Harry Grant.
They're not a team of champions.
They've just got a team full of workers, and I really believe that the coaching staff need to be wrapped in this. Like Fitzy and his coaching staff have got everyone playing at least 90% or above their ability.
Yeah.
Which is a great rap for the coaching staff, I believe, because these players actually believe in what the system is and what the system is they've created for the Sharks. So, and you got to remember that they've got Mulatalo out, they've got Katoa out, Nico's out. So I don't think we've given Sharks the respect they deserve.
Well, Fitzy, when you think of Fitzy, what comes to mind when you think of Fitzy? D. Workhorses. One percenters. And I think they were great. Like across the board, there wasn't one player that didn't miss an assignment. Like they just turned up every facet of the game. They're kind of like a bit of a Bulldog side where they're not the biggest pack. No.
But they work well together. And yeah, I've just, I really appreciated watching the Sharks closely and I just, like I said, I don't think they've been given the respect they deserve.
So where do they sit after what you've seen and started to keep closer eyes?
Well, they're the only team that's beaten the top three teams, right? Roosters, Melbourne and Penrith, correct?
Correct.
There's probably that little bit of judgment about the Sharks because they've went through, they lost 6 out of 7 in the middle of the year.
And they lost to like some of the bottom sides.
Yeah, right. So they seem to be finding some form at the right time. They played with great energy. Jesse Ramian is a beast in the centres.
Yep.
Young Idor, he's very raw, but again, great young player in the left centre.
Yeah.
They're a good side.
All right, next question.
Yes.
They've performed really well and they seem to have a really good synergy. Atkinson's playing out of his skin. Nico returns from injury.
Yep.
Where does he slot in?
Yeah, look, Atkinson has been great. I believe he's even had a stint on the wing.
Yeah.
But we spoke about Nico weeks ago when he got injured and he was under all that pressure from Origin, that this could be the perfect time for him to just have a break from the game. There's no doubt that he's been working hard off the ball. You know, he'd be doing everything possible to get the injury right, obviously, and just freshen up mentally. Watch the game, sit back, understand where he can improve. Like he'd have Daniel Holdsworth, who's, you know, the halfback, probably one of the coaching coaches at the Sharks, who a former half, maybe giving him some tips on where he could improve the side moving forward. But you got to bring Nico back in. You know, Nico's great. And I just think that injury and that Origin period and the pressure he was under for so many weeks, it's freshened him up, and it's a huge asset to get him back into that side. But I'm just loving what I'm seeing from these forwards. So Atkinson, I'm not too sure. I'm looking at their bench and I'm like, could he be a 14? But Jack Williams is there, and then you got Royce Hunt, Hemlin Ueli, and then Hazelton, who's another big body.
Does Trindle maybe go to 14 and let him play with Atkinson? Because there's been a synergy where either Trindle's played well with Atkinson or Atkinson's played well with Nico.
Yeah, you've got Jack Williams. You've got that whole bench playing too well.
Yeah,
you know, and unfortunately, someone's going to miss out. Someone will miss out, and like I said, you've got Mulatalo coming back and Katoa coming back soon, I believe. So it's a good problem to have depth going into the semi-finals. That's definitely for sure.
And it was depth that I think everyone had kind of ruled him out for the season. So the fact that he is going to be back and he's got 2 games to get himself right.
Correct. Correct. So don't sleep on the Sharks.
All right, the other team you wanted to mention, my beloved Chookies.
Oh, of course.
They put on... They're leaking points still.
Yeah.
They're putting on points. They're putting on lots of points. One thing that you could have criticised the Roosters for in recent years is being too defence-orientated and with having no attack. They've seemed to have tilted the spectrum the other way now. What are your thoughts?
Oh, look, I've got a bit of a funny take on this one. And if anyone's listening to this, they're going to say Reni's tripping. But you just touched on their defence.
Yeah.
Titans, 22 points leaked. Parramatta, 14. Yeah. In the wet. You could argue that 14 is probably too much as well, even though it was a try right at the end.
Yeah, right at the end.
Dolphins, 34 points. Sea Eagles, 30 points. So I watched their game closely as well. And my take on the Roosters is that they're attacking too much. I think they're pulling the trigger too much. You've got bodies in motion all around the park, especially when they get into an attacking area of the game. When you're running a decoy, you're exerting energy. You've got Joey Manu coming from the right as a trailer, another decoy on the inside. Yeah. So there's so much body in motion that I feel like maybe later in the game, it's zapping their energy and they're not as ruthless. Because Verrills, he was making too many meters towards the end. They just didn't have that ruthless defensive mentality that I haven't seen. And clearly, it's you haven't seen it for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I love watching their attack. Another example is their front rowers. So they'll play a long ball and they'll play a face ball across one front rower to the second front rower. But that front rower still needs to be there to be the face ball.
Yeah.
You know?
You're still working a little bit.
You're still working off the ball. And it might just sound like a bizarre take to have on a team that's attacked so well. But I just think maybe pulling the trigger too much and maybe just getting back to like understanding what sort of how the flow of the game is going. Halves understanding where their forwards are in terms of, do they look fatigued? Do I just need to kick it to a corner? Was it the fact that they're playing the Titans, it was hot weather and they saw so many opportunities? But there's something missing in their D. And I just felt like they're attacking just too much.
Do you think that could stem? And it's funny, the way you described it, I had a chat with, I think it was Jimmy Maloney about 6 weeks ago, and we spoke about Sam Walker. And he said, freak of a talent. He's like organic feel for the game is probably second to none for his age.
Yeah.
But he goes, he'll develop more when he learns to play for sets, more tackles down, and then playing set to set to set. And he goes, he almost attacks too much. So do you think the whole team is probably coming off he's the captain, he's the general out there?
Yeah, I mean, could it be the fact that Radley's gone out onto an edge, which I prefer because it gives Keary more time with the ball. It gives Walker more time with the ball.
Yeah.
Because you're not playing that Penrith, that South style where Murray or Yo are getting into the line. They're playing that 13 at the back. Butcher's been doing well there, but there is something missing. And what I found against, now that I've watched them the last 2 weeks and I really enjoy their attack, I just feel like they just need to pull it back a little bit and maybe they're just too heavy on their attack and need to just concentrate on their D a bit more, especially late in the game. They're just not as ruthless as the top teams like the Sharks, like Melbourne, like Penrith and like Dogs. You know, they're up there obviously in the top 4, but defensively, they're the worst out of the top 5 teams right now.
They're almost the reverse of Penrith, where Penrith stay in the hunt, and then asphyxiate you late. Roosters kind of just try and flog the shit out of you and hold on for dear life.
Well, this is what happens from memory. So every time they've played at Penrith, when their attack isn't working, they don't have a plan B.
Yeah.
Right? So they'll throw all that attack at them. They won't come off. And then they don't have the defensive steel to keep someone like Penrith out. Like, it's just, they can just sort of just drown teams and just put them to the sword with their attack. And like I said, they've got so many bodies in motion. They've got people working off the ball, which is great. You don't want to. There was one thing at the Dogs that Steve Folkes was big on, was always be in the picture. See, back then when we did video sessions, it was on VCR. so you'd be sitting there, you'd have to pause, rewind, but you'd always be in the picture. Yeah. And every single one of those Roosters boys are in the picture in an attacking mode. But they just...
It's hard to do for 80 minutes, isn't it?
80 minutes, but it's the other side of the game.
Yeah.
Then they're not ruthless enough
to compete on.
To maybe win this competition. But love their attack. Love their attack. They've got to fix their defence. They're just leaking too many points.
All right. We'll switch from my team to your team, your Doggies.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's not too much to talk about in this game. There is a couple of things. I think you've got to give them credit for the amount of... So we spoke about Belmore, like the energy that would have been built up for that game. Then they travelled to Bundaberg.
Yeah.
They have a short week, and then they travelled to New Zealand, probably another short week.
For the goodbye to Sean Johnson, which they definitely showed up for a good 25, 30 minutes.
Absolutely. And then they got the job done. And it's what I'm expecting from the Dogs now. I'm thinking, yeah, good on you, boys. Like, you went over there, you got the job done. Kurt Mann, for me, is a huge loss. I heard he broke his collarbone. I'm hoping that it's a 4 to 6 week injury, but someone else said that he could have been out. He could be out for the season. I think he's just really found a lot of great connectivity within our attack.
Yeah.
He's playing really square. He's not passing all the time. He's giving the defense another element of deception because they're not sure if he's going to run or pass. Yeah. So his injury is huge. And the obvious one we'll probably touch on is Critter. Like, Critter's going to be missing for a week now.
Yeah. What about I think that was at the third or fourth time they've kept a team to 0 in the second half.
Yeah.
That's an amazing stat.
They've built this year off their defence. They're the number one defensive side, and defence wins comps. Taking Kurt Mann out of the equation now, who's been outstanding for us, especially the last month. It's a little bit of a stab in the guts that you think, fuck, he's someone you don't want to miss.
Yeah.
I presume Salmon will probably start, and because I'd keep Bailey Haywood in that 14 jersey, so they were kind of swapping amongst each other, Bailey Haywood and Kurt Mann. I'd still keep Bailey there because he plays a similar role where he's got good feet. He plays square. He can play at the back. But yeah, Critter is the other one that's going to be a tough loss, especially against Manly this week.
Manly.
And we really still want to go for that top 4. So
definitely.
Sharks have obviously, they know they're sort of hot on their heels.
Let's go back to Critter. Should he have been put in the sin bin?
Yeah, we all know that. Critter knows that.
So that's one. And then we'll go back. My poor mate Jared just misunderstood again. He looks like he's gone for 3 weeks. Here's a stat brought to you by our good old mate Big Les.
Yeah.
There was 30 penalties for high tackles.
Yeah.
10 of the 30s have been charged. 6 of the 10 were sin binned. 5 of the 6 were grade 2. And 4 or 5 were grade 2 charges with sin bins.
There was a lot of high shots, yeah. I reckon a lot of them came out of that Sunday game with the Titans and the Roosters, for sure. I mean, hot weather. There just seems to be like this continued argument. Are we losing the fabric of our game? Our game's aggressive. The accidents happens. There's so many variables that comes into a high shot. I get it. Yes, the bunker has probably confused it a lot, confused the referees on the way they adjudicate and make a decision on a high shot.
Definitely.
But it ain't going away. It ain't going away. You hit the head, you're a chance of fucking going to the bin.
So I've got a question.
Yeah.
And so you got a smaller player, and then you've got some of these blokes that are like 6'6".
Yeah.
And then they're stepping in the tackle, they're making steps. They're already lowering their level, then they're not that tall as it is. And you've got blokes like Jared and taller.
Yeah.
And it happens so quick that people have so much fast footwork.
I get what you're saying.
What are you to do?
I reckon 90% of the tackles that I see that a taller guy has made on a shorter guy, they could have lowered their level. They definitely, you could go, but they're a taller bloke. No, you could have bent down or got a bit lower. That's just the way the game is going now.
Yeah.
We have to adjust to the game because of these head concussions. The NRL don't want a legal case and against them over concussions and this ongoing on. There's so much science behind it now. I watched what was her name? Louisa someone on the Julian Dory podcast. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you mentioned this.
And she's a neurophysiologist.
Julian Dory.
Julian Dory, but the girl that was on there, she's an Australian.
Louisa Nikora.
That's the one, Louisa Nikora. And she mentioned that she'd done some studies around brain injury, especially footballers that have passed, and that they have literally found holes in the brain from trauma, from taking shots. Now, I would play my career over and again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like, I knew the risk of taking shots in the head. I mean, your shots in the head probably came more off the field, or the holes in your brain. But we all know the risk.
Definitely.
But there is so much science around it now. It started obviously with the NFL. Now it's here with the NRL.
Yeah.
No one wants a legal battle.
No.
That it ain't going anywhere. It ain't going anywhere. The interpretation And it, like, I know there was one young fella that sent us a message on Instagram, but there is question marks over players milking it as well.
Yeah.
But how do you police that as well? Like,
they get straight back up after the penalties.
And they start smiling about it. Yeah, right. I get that, and people are going to milk it as well.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter, and let's just keep it as black and white as possible. If you hit the head, you're either going to get penalised or you're going to go into the sin bin. And unfortunately, because we like that Roman Colosseum gladiatorial, game that it warrior. Is, the world's changing, the game's changing. It can still be aggressive, it can still be hard, but we just have to lower our levels.
Or it'll just become Oztag.
Just get the tags out.
I'll come back. I will make an appearance.
So will I. Yeah, look, the Critters, a big one. I saw Andrew Abdo and Volandis will likely blow up the bunker for next year, which we won't go too deep into. I think we've said enough. They've just had poor leadership, and it just feels like a group.
There has to be an investigation.
Investigate all of them.
There
could be a betting scandal amongst them. No, I won't say that.
We can't say that. We can't say that. I think we need to touch on another game though. Yep. Penrith getting beat by Sticky's Raiders. I think when we did the preview, you said we kind of both agreed this could be a tricky game. Mm-hmm. Sticky just going to get teams up, and obviously the lack of Cleary.
Well, why can't they get up other times? You know what I mean? Like, they hadn't been great down in Canberra, and then they'll lose the games. It's almost like they need a Penrith or Roosters. They need a top four side to just show go, their best. Yeah, you're coming down to the ACT. It's not my favourite place to play, especially in winter. But I knew it was a danger game, regardless if Cleary's playing or not. Like, knowing what Sticky's like, he just, if they turned up, they can beat anyone. And obviously they've beaten Penrith. I still believe Penrith are the favourites.
Wow.
Or thereabouts, right?
That's me next
Between
question.
them and Melbourne, right? They've lost a couple now. They're missing Cleary. It's the first time in the last sort of 4 years where you're starting to say, hey.
You know, it's funny because I reckon 4 weeks ago, pre-Cleary, a couple of games where they started to look a little bit tired, or just they weren't as Penrith as they have been.
Yeah.
4 weeks ago, everyone was like, it's Penrith's team to lose. Like, if I framed a market, I had them like $2.30. Now they're $3.75. They're not even favourite.
I just don't think we need to look into it too deep. Cleary's come out and said that obviously they're not playing well and going into a semi-final. Like, out of all of those teams, you'd be like, I don't want to play Penrith in the first semi-final.
Yeah.
Right.
Luckily, the Roosters should get to do it at Allianz.
You and your Roosters. I'm just saying, like, I think just hold off on the panic buttons just yet. Do you know who they've got in their last 2 rounds?
They have got, give me 1 second and they've got South. They should win that. And and their last game, they should win this as well. It is the Titans at Penrith.
Yeah, look, 2 games they should definitely win. I'm not looking into this too much because I knew Canberra. I had a feeling Canberra would turn up for this game, and they've let one slip. All right, reset. We go again. We know what to fix. We don't want to feel like that. We're too close to the semi-finals. Let's just get in. Let's get these two next games that are definitely winnable games, and then let's get into the semis and roll, because I don't think too much changes from Penrith. They're still favourite, if not second favourite.
Yeah. All right, shall we rip into the preview, or is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, let's get into the preview.
We kick off with a belter. Cowboys $1.23 against the Storm $4.25. I will make a note, team lists aren't officially out, so we're doing this without the full team list. But clearly they're resting 10 of their players.
Yeah. I think Bellamy's having a rest as well.
Is he?
Belly ache's not even.
Is he doing Fiji with Benji?
They said that it's too far for him to travel, so they're going to give him a rest as well. Maybe his larynx or his voice box needs to calm down a bit before he gets into the semi-finals. But yeah, look, can you imagine they go up there and win? Like the Cowboys, obviously, they should win. They should win. It's as simple as that. Melbourne deserve to rest their players. They've won the minor premiership. Why would you risk it?
Why would you?
You just
especially out there in the heat as well, travelling, perfect game for a rest. All right, so you're tipping the Storm confidently. Next.
Cowboys at $1.23.
Yes. All right, move on to the Bulldogs, $1.62 at a core. Sea Eagles. Can they keep this little winning streak intact?
Oh, the way Turbo's playing, it's another dangerous game. Like every week it's like a Dolphins, dangerous game. Warriors, dangerous game. Critter out. They won without Critter the last time. Kurt Mann. Yeah, I'm disappointed for him. I can't back against my Dogs. They have not lost a home game this year. Manly were disappointing against the Tigers. They'll be looking to turn it around. It'll be a big game. Dogs at home. I'm expecting a huge crowd too. So Bulldogs for me.
Yeah, I'd like to take the overs in the burnouts out the front.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't park your car in Belmore if the Dogs are, especially if they get the win, because it'll likely end up on its side. They're going mad.
I love it.
I love it too.
I love it. It's so good for rugby league.
Yeah.
So good. We've got the Penny Panthers, $1.14. They won't be resting anyone.
Yeah, look, Penrith, South. Rabbits are...
Barley?
Nah, they're probably going to start pre-season straight away with old Wayne, so... Look, Penrith, they'll turn it around. They'll prove to everyone why they've won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
So Penny Panthers for me.
Interesting clash. We've got Eels at CommBank, 225 against the Dragons, who one thing with Flano, he would not like the fact that they had their ass handed to them.
They didn't play well.
No.
They played well in patches.
Yep.
But Flanagan's a massive loss for him. How many weeks did he get for the bite? Possibly 2?
Yeah, at least.
So he could be back this week.
No, I think it's 1 more. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Jack Bird, who's been an amazing competitor at 6, he's filled in, and I watched how hard he tried at 6 to create shape and organise his team. They just looked clunky, and I'm just not confident. I just can't, confidently say that the Dragons will win this. Yes, they're desperate. Parramatta have had some close losses as well. They're not playing they're obviously not winning, but they're not playing that bad.
But they're just they had that game shot to bits and once again shit the bed.
Well, I just think at CommBank, after what I saw from the Dragons on Sunday, I think Parramatta's going to win this.
Okay. All right, we move on. Dolphins, Battle of Queensland. Yeah. Wayne Bennett's second last game up there. $2.96 against Broncos, who started to put some things together late.
Well, whoever loses this is out of the race completely.
Yeah, so it's a massive clash.
Huge clash. It's a toss of the coin, It's like Dolphins have really just sort of slipped away, and they've got a similar loss record to the back end of last year. I think they're like 3 from 10 as well. And last year they were the same. Kevy came out and said, we're going to the semi-finals. Well, I'm like, well, Kevy, you're not on the field, son. But maybe if you were playing, you'd be going to the semi-finals. So, look, I think the Broncos should win.
They've beaten them both times they've played also last year.
They should win. It's hard to say without the team list out as well. I'm like, who's
if I said you at the start of the season this was going to be a clash and you weren't 100% sure which way you were going.
Yeah, look, it's just Dolphins are obviously flying, and Bronx coming from a grand final last year just haven't found their form. So it's whoever wants it more. Like they're still mathematically both in the chase, but I'm just going to lean towards the Bronx.
You gave a massive rap to the Sharks at the start of this episode. They're $1.18 at home against the Wars, who could very much be in Bali mode.
Yeah, look, but do they go to Bali? The Warrior Boys, where would they go?
Oh no, they do Fiji.
Fiji.
They do Fiji.
Fiji or Tasmania, I'm not too sure. Look, Sharks, I just saw a really ruthless, well-drilled side, potentially Nico Hines back in the team. And I think they've just finally got the respect they deserve. And I've heard a little bit of mainstream talk about them sort of yesterday. I know it's only Tuesday, but that gives them confidence. Yeah. It gives them a little bit of confidence. So, Sharkies for me.
This next team is a team you reckon could be the one to sneak into the 8. So I'll be interested to hear why, and I'm assuming you're tipping it. So Newcastle Knights are at home. McDonald Jones, $1.35 against the Titans, $3.25.
I think just from 11th to sort of 8th at the moment, their last 2 games just make more sense for me for them to slip in, especially if the Dragons lose their last 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're a potential side that I think can maybe slip into the 8. Titans were really poor. You know, like considering where they just turned a corner throughout the season. They started terribly.
Yeah.
Like they started awful.
But then they built.
And then they built and they turned into this Des team. And then they've just sort of fallen off the wagon. They just look like a team that they just want the season to be finished.
They kind of look like they've been flogged by Des for a little bit in that middle season.
Des is he expects perfection. He's intense.
Yeah.
And it's going to take another preseason or another 2 preseasons for a few of their younger players to understand that, hey, this is what it takes to be a winner. And that's what Des expects. And I can just see right now that they've just like,
on that, so when you're getting flogged by Des, when you're still in the hunt and getting flogged by Des, is that belief system, I'm assuming, easier to buy into compared to when you know you're not playing semis? And he still believes, he's thinking about 5 years from now where...
Yeah, of course.
It's hard for a young player.
It depends on the individual and what kind of mindset they have, you know. You want to be a winner, you're gonna go through to the end of the season and give it your all.
Yeah.
I just saw too many white flags on the weekend. I think there's that, but that fullback, Keanu Kinney, like that kid is probably the youngest in the team. He's running harder than anyone. He's creating more havoc, more. Like for a fullback to be that small and he's in his first year of first grade, to be kind of your leader. Sam Verrills has been playing well as well.
He's always been a real
I feel like, you know, the big man Dave sort of just fell off a little bit. But look, they need another couple of big preseasons under Des to understand what 26, 27 rounds of football feels like and the amount of intensity that goes into a season. But I just think that the Titans may have just let this season kind of slip away now, and just looking forward to finishing up. And the Knights are desperate. The Knights are desperate, so Knights for me.
We move to last game in the round, Allianz Stadium, Roosters, last home game of the year against Raiders, who have been up for some of these good games. Can they produce 2 weeks in a row, Sticky's mom?
See, this is the thing. When you got coming up against the Raiders, like, and I'm looking at the Roosters the way they've been leaking points. Like, if their plan A doesn't work, their attack, and they get into an arm wrestle with the Roosters, like, I'm not completely confident that the Roosters can win this.
And missing Jared for a game where it's a real tough clash.
Oh, he's another big loss as well. I mean, we probably didn't dive into that enough, but like I'll pick the Roosters because they're sitting second, but I'm not confident at all. And I don't want to be someone that just sits on the fence with this, but Raiders are probably the worst team you want to come up against, you know, because they won't go away. They're tough. They're gritty. Defense, they can be a defense-minded sort of side. So if they cut down their attack, it'll turn into that sort of grind. And then it's like, all right, who's got the more ruthless defense in the back end of the game? You know? And they're coming off for you. Obviously, the win against Penrith. A non-confident pick of your team, the Chookies, for me.
I want to mention one more thing. The Tigers, well done. You get your 2 points again here. But it's a very important 2 points. Because if Para get beat, they go in the second last. And then they play Para last round. So that could be this game at Campbelltown Sports Stadium, the Battle of the Spoon.
Can you believe Parramatta are like playing off for a spoon?
2 years ago they were in the grand final, and now they're playing for a spoon.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It's been an interesting season, and you know what? I think this season's really interesting. Looking at, like we've said, you saw those top 2, 3, but 4, 5, 6 are definitely there.
Yeah.
And then there's even interesting to see who gets into that 8 even there as well. So I think
you got to respect what Penrith have done and Melbourne have done for such a long period. But it's just nice to be able to see teams like the Dogs, teams like the Sharks, teams kind of like Manly have fallen off. Just on their day, maybe challenging these top tier teams that everyone expects to be in the grand final. So it's just nice to see it open up a little bit more. And I know Tommy Gunn would be happy with the Sharks getting
and our big man Lukey as well.
And Lukey, big shout out to Lukey, mate. I gave your Sharkies a rap, mate. And off the back of raps, I just want to thank everyone who's been watching lately and subscribing, and
it's been big.
It's been good. It's been good.
Very
and the questions, keep the questions coming. I'm a little bit slow to write back on the YouTube and the Instagram questions, but I do see them. I do appreciate them. Hit the like button, subscribe, get us in the algorithm, and
no, we appreciate it big
time.
We
do appreciate it a lot.
See you next week.
See you next week.
What are you prepared to lose today? Set a deposit limit. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.